As we enter our 4th century of ministry, we give thanks for the wisdom and the foresight of those who came before us. Now we must prepare to nurture Christian faith and service in the next generation of Presbyterians. Now, it's our turn. In the early 1720s, an insistent group of Presbyterians lobbied to form their own congregation in Morristown. In 1729, they built a wooden meeting house a few feet east of where the present church stands. In 1795, the congregation raised that building to erect a bigger meeting house as the church grew with the town. 45 years later, the congregation entered a period of turmoil, and some members broke away to form the Second Presbyterian Church at 65 South Street. Meanwhile, back at the First Presbyterian Church, plans were laid for a grand new stone edifice, completed in 1894. In 1925, the two Presbyterian churches were reunited, with the church on the green used for worship and the building at 65 South Street converted to offices and classrooms.
I think one of the things that's constant in life and in a church life and in a personal life is change. And apparently our forefathers in this church have done a pretty good job of dealing with change and adapting to change, because we're still here and we're still strong. We're very involved in the community, and it's a wonderful place to worship.
From the time that the first meeting house was used as a hospital during the smallpox epidemic of 1777, the Presbyterian Church in Morristown has been deeply committed to touching lives beyond the walls of our church.
Our tradition of service to the community here is a very involved one, and not only to our local community, but to a number of programs outside of our community.
Just as important as our historic commitment to the community is our congregation's ability to embrace change and to plan for the future. The 2011 session established a vision for our future, creating pathways to discover new connections in Christ. To achieve that vision, we need updated, expanded mission and ministry space that is both accessible and flexible.
The current configuration of the chancel really makes it difficult for our choirs. There really isn't enough room for the kind of music events that we have been doing lately when we bring in extra musicians. So as we are developing more music programs that are very well attended, both with members of our congregation and people from outside the church, the chancel is becoming much more of an issue.
A dream team of more than 30 congregation and staff members identified these projects.
Representatives from 13 church committees plus staff members. Those were all of the session committees, plus the older adult ministry, the nursery school, and Presbyterian women. We also have 2 town meetings. When all that was done, we had a collection of 36 projects, but the committee created a consensus to move forward on the 5 projects that make up the capital campaign.
The setting is so important in how people respond to and feel about something, that it's important that we be creative and that we're flexible. Movable seating helps us reach that goal.
To have more flexibility, to have the chancel more open, to have the chancel coming out toward the congregation a little more, I believe will just add to and improve that concept, that feeling of being connected.
So 3.5 years later, and here we are.
Unbelievable. This has been such a journey, and in a way the extra time we have had really has helped a lot. We've been able to develop the chancel plans more completely, and actually, Sue, we are closer to what the original chancel looked like in the original 1894 structure. Isn't that amazing?
It's just amazing. And it's given us the time to look at the rest of the structure and see where we need to do updates. Pew cushions, carpets.
And lighting. Lighting has been such an issue in this sanctuary that now we are able to address that issue, which is going to be so great for the congregation.
Sure will be.
Our church is going through a period of amazing change and growth as it pertains to our congregation as well as our sanctuary. The Church on the Green has been here for the past 123 years. She has been here as a beacon for the congregation as well as the community and from visitors from afar. We have come to a time in the life of our historic church that she needs our help to maintain her beauty and preserve her for the next century. Over the past couple of years, she has started to show her age. Small pieces of plaster have fallen from the rosette ceiling above the sanctuary. There are cracks in the plasterwork adjacent to the stained glass and domes in the side aisles, as well as the narthex and chancel. Due to these early warning signs of plaster fatigue, we have met with several plaster conservators, material science consultants, and engineers. The initial assessment of the conservators was that we needed to commence the process of implementing a stabilization method and a restoration process to preserve the rosette ceiling and plaster work. We are certainly blessed to be able to worship in our beautiful sanctuary. It is our goal to be able to provide that for generations to come.
I think about the challenges that our congregation has faced. We've been trying to see how do we move forward. And for some reason at this point, it just seems like God's led us to this time and that it truly is our turn to help move our church in a new direction.
The first thing I think about is all of the generations that came before us, people who have made sacrifices through the years so that we could have the church that we have today, the facilities that we have today, and be part of the community. And now it's our turn to make changes for the future generations.
What really strikes me is that even though we say it's our turn, there's a point of action. When things really start to happen is when we're willing to make that sacrifice.
I think we have to sacrifice together as a congregation. And sacrifice to me is not giving what is left over, what is extra. It's prayerfully considering making some kind of a change in your life that you can give, possibly beyond what you ever thought you could give.
3.5 years ago, I shared how excited I was by what I saw happening in our church. Even more so now, with renovated spaces in the parish house, such as the kitchen, the gymnasium, and Sheffield Hall, and our growing programs. I also shared 3.5 years ago that at its foundation, this is not about facilities. It's about what we can do to further God's work, as our vision states, to create new pathways. So I encourage you to participate, to sacrifice, as we do even more to ensure our mission, to honor our past, to prepare many future generations for ministry as we complete our turn.